Because it's 4 o'clock and I believe it's starting on time.
Practices for boards right across this.
Superintendent.
Yes,
That'd be
thank
really
you,
good.
President King. Appreciate that. We have a technology presentation today. We presented a little bit, or the team presented a little bit on that in the board work session in January, and said, but wait, there's more, and this is the more. And we appreciate their work. So I'm going to turn the time over to Scott on our leadership team, and he'll introduce the technology team.
Thank you, Superintendent. As just way of an intro, we discussed ways, kind of an attention getter. You know, as a true teacher would have something to present up front, so you just get your attention. We talked about turning all the technology off, like turning the Wi-Fi off, and just seeing if that got it. We're like, probably not the best of ideas, but we considered it. But that was me. These guys told me no.
This morning wants to have the big red button in the data center.
Oh my goodness. You guys have seen the big red button in the data center, right?
Yeah.
I've got a picture. Maybe we'll throw it up later.
I have that thought today.
Oh my goodness. No.
Give it.
We are excited to share some ideas, some proposals, and some recommendations for the technology piece in Alpine Schoolers and the three-way configuration. Here, if you guys just raise your hand when you're here. Dr. Blaine Edmond, he's our admin of technology. Matt Johnson, Director of Technology and Infrastructure. Adam DeJohnny, Director of Technology Support. Dr. Darren Draper, Director of Innovative Learning. And Paul Lewis, Director of Data Services. They've spent a lot of time putting together a presentation, sharing some information. They will have some time for question and answer just to go through it. I'm sure there's lots of questions that come up with it, but we've got an amazing team that does a great job. The best ideal setting with technology is you don't have any questions. You're just going and working, and everybody's happy. But I can say when the things go down, like there's been a few times I'm going to meet like text Blaine like, hey, the internet's down. And he's like, I'm on it. And that fast, it happens that quickly where they have it assessed and taken care of. But having a good team, getting things set up is essential for how things launch for, not just how things operate on a daily basis, but also how things launch for the future. There's a lot behind the scenes, and I'll turn the time over to you guys to jump into it.
Thanks. We really appreciate the time to be able to come today, and we know how valuable this time is, and so we're very, very grateful to be given the time, and we'll have information presented, but like Scott said, we know there's lots of questions, so we want to give plenty of time to explore those questions and answer the questions that you have and get your ideas as well. So when I first became the technology director over a decade ago, Barry Graff was my boss, and the first thing he told me is, Blaine, in technology, the sky cannot always be falling. Don't be chicken little. The sky can't always be falling. And sometimes when we talk to technology folks, it always feels like the sky's falling. So we're here today to tell you that we don't believe the sky's falling. We can make this happen. We're confident in our team. We're confident because we have a great team. These gentlemen and dozens of other people behind the scenes that nobody ever sees are just fantastic at their jobs, and we're confident that with the right plan and the right preparation and the right team, that we can have all three districts successful. And that really is our goal. Since the reconfiguration happened, every time we meet with our team, we remind them that our goal is for three districts to be successful when we start, and that's a combined goal. It doesn't matter where you live and where your kids are going to school, where you hope that maybe you'll work. Our goal collectively as Alpine is to make sure three districts are successful. Our greatest achievement as the Alpine Technology Department is going to be to no longer have an Alpine Technology Department and have three successful technology departments. I will say it is a considerable challenge. It's a little unprecedented. It's something that there's no handbook for, so we're trying to figure out how to best do this. And we look forward to this opportunity to make sure all those elements are in place. I'm going to give Darren a minute to talk a little bit about this framework that helps us.
So this is a framework that we've used to try to make our work a little more clear as leaders. It's a framework that's taught to a number of our teachers as they attempt to become principals, that many of our principals have received in their training programs. It's called the VUCA model. And this VUCA model was developed in the 80s and designed for leaders to consider strategic ways that they can react. In times of volatility, for example, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, that's VUCA, each first letter, part of the acronym. In those times, leaders have specific ways that they might want to react to improve conditions in the environment. When things are volatile, for example, one of the best things we can do as leaders is to share a clear vision. When there's uncertainty about direction, it's important for us to get feedback and try to improve understanding across the environment. When there's complexity, clarity through creating a plan and sticking with that plan can help us as leaders to help the organization move forward. And then through all of it, even as ambiguous as things get, agility is important. It's important for us to be flexible because you never know what might be coming your way. And so as we've thought about what changes we're going to need to make through reconfiguration, we've referenced this plan and tried to think about ways that we can develop a vision, understanding, clarity, while also still remaining flexible throughout this so we can have the most success. And so we wanted to share with you a draft of what we're thinking about to hopefully provide you with some clarity, and we really want to interface with you to make this plan the best it can be.
Thanks. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the elements we're going to talk about today. So one of the things we're going to talk about today that's really important is preparing new systems. We had a chance to spend a few minutes with you about a month ago. We talked a little bit about new systems and all of the systems that are in the district and the complexity and the plan that's going to need to take place to prepare new systems for new districts. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit more about data centers. We appreciate the support that you've already given on data centers. We'll get a little update of where we are to make sure that we have data centers in place for all the districts. We're going to talk just a little bit about splitting, saving, and archiving data because there's a lot of data that's going to need to be find homes in the appropriate districts, and we need to make sure that process is complete but also safe. All of those things are very important, but none of them will work if we don't have a plan for how we staff and how we work through keeping our staff working in Alpine and staffing new districts as that becomes time to do that. So we're going to start by talking just a little bit about staffing. So we know there's a lot of uncertainty in this area right now. We're hopeful that the legislation that is coming out soon may inform some district employee protections and assurances for our team. Just want you to know that our team, as well as many other teams, are watching that closely to see what happens and are hopeful that this will give some guidance. The uncertainty of not knowing how this is going to work is weighing on our staffs. We also know that no legislation is going to fill in all the gaps. So where legislation may leave gaps, we're hopeful that district transition plan, we know there's a reconfiguration plan that boards will get to create, and that could add some important details to help inform that process. And really just, we have to help reiterate that all of these elements really depend on people to do this. We're in a little bit of a unique situation, a little bit different than Canyons and Jordan, where Canyons and Jordan, Canyon split away from Jordan, so Canyons hired their technology staff. Jordan kept much of their staff, and so it just immediately became clear these folks will work on Canyon's systems, these people will work on Jordan's systems. We're in a little bit different situation where we have a staff that needs to keep Alpine running, but then also simultaneously build 3 new districts at the same time and figure out how that's all going to work simultaneously. So we know that that's a little bit difficult. Yes?
So it sounds like overlap would be kind of important.
That's how we envision that it would work. I mean, I know there's a lot of different, but that's how we envision if, for instance, if all of our staff were hired by new districts and they immediately started working only exclusively for the new district, there would be no one left to run Alpine for that last part of Alpine's existence. And our teams work hard every day. There are things that happen every day and people need help every day. So we need those people to keep working. There's also, in an overlap situation, there's that opportunity for helping each other. So for instance, we have somebody great on our firewalls and filters. But in new districts, you're going to need a person in each district that can do that. Well, if there's some overlap and we know who's going to take those roles in new districts, they can work together to set up those systems and to do some knowledge transfer to help make those things possible to happen. So that's what we're hoping would happen is a system that would allow for that overlap, because we really are going to have to be doing things at once. Any other questions or thoughts? So we're going to move on to element number 2, which is how we are going to prepare those new systems. So we touched on this last month. Thinking back to what you remember from that presentation, what questions immediately come to mind, or what, as we were presenting that, there was this moment where it's like, we need to invite you back because we have lots of more questions. We know we don't have time. So what are some of those questions that were hanging in the air that you might want to answer? How to answer? Yes.
So I think I've changed my position since then. And my biggest question now is, okay, we've got some new board members being hired in November. They'll kind of get things going, but from my perspective, who knows exactly what our technical staff will be by then, because some of them will have taken different positions. It feels to me like we gotta get going right now and get these 3 data centers set up while we've got the staff that knows how to do everything. And so I think you've got some slides in here that kind of talk about that.
We do.
But I just wanted to give you that seems to be the biggest issue right now is, can we get this done while we have the technical staff in place that knows how to do it?
We have a few slides and then also a potential timeline we may want to consider. We'll dig into that in just a couple
Okay.
minutes.
Anyway, that's kind of where I am, and it's before I was like, hold off, don't do anything till the new
Right.
boards are elected. But I mean, as we've seen people taking changes in positions and stuff, all of a sudden I'm like, we can't wait. We got to get this thing done.
You've identified really the challenge of this is that we don't want to make decisions for new districts. We really can't make decisions. But what can we do in preparation? So that's what we're going to try to lay out, is kind of what we do. And we'll talk, there's the data center piece, which does run on software, but these systems are really these big software systems. And there are probably around 300 of them in our district that we need to be worried about getting up in place.
So when you say systems, you're talking about the 300.
I'm talking about, yes, around 300 systems. There's learning systems, there's management systems, there's technology, behind the scenes systems, and we'll kind of go through a little bit of all of those different things and how we could foresee and what kind of timeline we could see. And like you said, we know that staff is in flux, but we hope that if we can have some plan for how that might work, we can keep more of our staff in place so that they can continue to do this work. Because we're going to need them. They have the expertise, and not only that, they have the experience. When we could hire people off the street that know some things.
They know how to break things.
They know the systems, but they don't know how
fix things.
we've used the systems. They don't have that institutional knowledge. And even when we hire someone new, as great as they are, it often takes 6 months or a year for them to fully understand how we're using those systems. And so we know that we need to be able to keep our people engaged and working on this flow. You had a question, Super.
Yeah. One way that I frame this is technology, with regard to technology and other aspects of the district, that July 1st of 2026 is one of those pivotal days. Meaning that if there are things that can be deferred until that time and it wouldn't disadvantage the new district, then give the authority, opportunity to the new superintendent, BA, leadership team and the board, and they would have a year to act on that, and that would give them plenty of runway to get something in place for the start of 27, 28. If delaying until July 1st, 2026 would disadvantage them significantly, then that's where we probably need to act to move things forward so that those new districts aren't disadvantaged. It's balancing that autonomy versus guidance and direction, and we need to get things going so that you're not disadvantaged. Is that a fair
It is a fair.
assessment of timing
And really, this whole section on preparing new systems, what we're leading to is a suggested timeline. And we're gonna need to suggest to the current board and to future boards to say, this is the timeline we need to follow. If we can't follow this timeline, we can't be prepared.
So
And
when
that-
they're all possible and can be implemented a year, we're pushing that to the new boards for decision.
Exactly.
If it's detrimental to wait that long.
And in some situations, like we've worked with vendors to say, can we have a free instance of yours, and we can start setting up the new districts, and so then they can choose, are they gonna buy it or not, and if they buy it, it's all set up for them. If they don't buy it, then that just gets scrubbed and they can do something different. But we think that in most cases, they're gonna say, yes, there's so much to do, you've made the preparations, let's go.
Okay.
So, we'll
So can I just chime in, because I really like that perspective. I think the thing I had not considered strongly before was, if there's something that only one person on our current staff knows how to do, that becomes prioritized in my mind. Because we can't wait and take the chance on not having that guy around. You see what I mean? So it's just another factor that
Fits into that framework.
that fits into that framework.
And we try to not have anything that only one person, but we have people that are specialists for sure, and where there's one with kind of a backup, and we're gonna have to do some knowledge transfer, we need to start acting quickly. That's absolutely true. And so this is really what, the point of this is that for us to be able to create all these 300 needed systems, we need time, so we need this common timeline, and we need the people that are gonna be able to do it. So that, and so if we can have a plan to help our people understand how's this gonna work, that will really help them. I'm gonna turn it over to Paul, who's gonna talk just for a minute about how the beginnings of these systems.
First of all, what's that? Thanks for taking the time to listen today. I know sometimes you just zone out when you start talking about technology, and we really do appreciate you taking the time to listen to some of the things that we are worried about and also excited about. I'm kind of an analogy person, so last time we talked about motherships. We're going to talk about a house this time. Our technology infrastructure is a lot like a house. It has a foundation. You pour the cement and it solidifies, and then you start building the walls, and those go up, and then you put the roof on, and then when everything's inside, then you put the sheetrock on, paint it, make it look nice, but then you still need the furniture and the lamps, right, to make it look good. So our technology structure is very much like this. We have basically 4 different areas of systems. We have our authoritative systems. This is much like the cement, the foundation of a home. These two will drive everything that goes on back here. And once that cement's poured, that cement lasts for a long time. The next thing here, once we get the cement up, is we start building the walls, and that is the core systems that usually are sitting behind the walls, like the wiring and the plumbing and things that you don't normally think about until your water doesn't turn on, right? That's this stuff right here. Then we have the departmental systems. These are the systems that each department chooses so that they can function as a department and help educate our kids. That's what these are. And typically the departments will, a lot of them will choose their own system to so that they can function. The last one here would be more like the plates and the cups and the lamps in the house and your nice furniture, your couches and things like that. These are learning tools for our kids. Really, a house doesn't really do anything unless you have a couch and chairs and a table That's really what makes that's what makes it go. And ultimately, these systems go back to our kids. We're trying to provide something that is going to help our kids learn what they need to learn so they can function in society. We have two major systems that are our foundation. We have the finance HR system and then the student system. SIS means Student Information System. We currently live in a custom approach model in our district, whereas most departments get to choose what they want to do. Some districts will live in an integrated type model where they marry the two foundations and then they kind of tie some of the other systems into it, but some of those systems that are over here are built into these systems, and you can leverage those advantages there. There's a lot of pros and cons to these, but once we decide, I would say that as we start to look at the district reconfiguration, this decision right here is going to be fundamental and foundational for everything that happens beyond that. So this will be one of the early decisions that will need to be made by each district. Oh, this button's working really good. Our first one that we have is our Student Information System. That's our SIS. Everybody calls it Skyward. It really is called SMS 2.0. It's a little bit cumbersome, right? Skyward is going to a new version called Cumulative, and I told them they needed to use a spell checker to do that. It didn't happen, so we just call it Q, so it's not very awkward. This new version is going to be fun. It's going to be wonderful. It was really built for the user experience. It's going to be better for our teachers, our parents, and our students and our departments. One example, for example, is this fall we had a lot of parents, 9,000 approximately, some of which are trying to register their kids on mobile, right, on a mobile app, and it doesn't work for the current version of Skyward. That will change this once we go to Q, and it'll just change how the registration happens. So that's just kind of an example of what's going to be coming in this product. Skyward has also said new districts are not going to be on the old version that we're currently on. So it is imperative that we move to Q, and we are looking at doing that in fall of 2026. One of the reasons why we're doing this now is because we have the manpower. We have all the people in place that we can, so that we can leverage and get this thing kicked off. Having done this 15 years ago, that's why my hair's gray. I think it's a good time to be able to transition our district so that we can sit on this for about a year before the reconfiguration happens, if that makes any sense. Okay? All right. We also have the financial system. Currently, it's Alio was bought by a company called Link. Link ERP is the new version. So Alio is an old version that we're on right now, the current version. We are quickly moving to what we call Link ERP. That's this one right here. And that we anticipate that transition will be done this fall. We're on the phone probably weekly with these guys trying to get this full transition done. Again, we're trying to do these things now before we have the reconfiguration. Some of this, like I said, some of the districts will actually combine their two systems, so there's some cohesion between those. But we're going to be moving to Link ERP currently, and the new districts are going to have to decide again how this foundational model works. And once we do that, we pour the cement and it hardens and we start building the house. So that's, again, these decisions will need to be made fairly early on once the leadership for the new districts happen.
So with this Link ERP, is this something that's going to be just like a massively different program that our financial secretaries are going to have to learn? Or is this like when I get an software update on my phone? It's the same phone, pretty much the same things with a couple of different things that do things.
That is a great question. The question is, will it be massively different or will it be somewhat similar? It is going from a client to the web. So the look and the feel and the language behind it is all the same. it'll just be instead of running a program that is installed on my machine, I'm going to go to a web browser and use it through a web browser. There's some differences in navigation and things, but by and large, basically you're going to be speaking the same language. Our
It's
schools
probably
are-
somewhere in between. It's more than just a version update on your phone, but it's less than a whole new thing.
So the secretaries will have to have some training.
They will have to have some.
How about this? The engine's all going to be the same, but the body's different.
That metaphor still doesn't help. But whatever, sounds great.
We were
They're
making
willing to-
this change anyway, right? Taking
Yeah.
we had already, we authorized, right, that we were gonna move forward with this, whether we would have reconfigured or not.
Yeah, because again, just like Skyward, Olio or Link is moving off this current version, and we're actually the last district in the state to get off this version. So we need to do it, and it's good. It'll be good. So
Is that an
maybe-
advantage to us though, that we're the last because everybody else has paved the way before us?
I would say yes, because we're learning all the stuff that didn't work, and
Okay.
they're helping us to make it work.
Paul, maybe clarify the reason why we're going to Link is because of, we have to, but the reason why we're not jumping into Skyward connection is because it's not available with the old version. So we have to update the cumulative to get to the financial system is not available to us with Skyward because we're on the old version. So we have to go to Link because that's our next update with the current system we
So
have.
Skyward already have a financial system out there.
Yeah, but we can't go to it because we're not on cumulative yet. Or can we?
No, that's totally separate.
No.
Okay.
But it would be a much bigger,
It would be a very heavy lift to change financial systems.
So Link is easier to get to now.
right, we
but
didn't,
we have to
because
update
we were
it.
last, we really didn't have time to do that. Because Olio's like, you're the last ones, we're not gonna keep paying for the server space for this old system.
Yeah.
So Paul, if I could clarify then, we're transitioning from Olio to Link, we're transitioning from Skyward to Q. The question that, the choice really, the next choice would be, do the new districts want to combine Skyward or Q and bring in all of the financial aspects into it, the finance, the warehouse, all that, or do they want to operate in the custom approach? But
Yeah.
that's a choice that the new districts will
Yeah,
be making.
and there are pros and cons to both, right? This is a long discussion, and so it's not like, oh, this is super easy, right? There's a lot of different thoughts and ideas that go behind choosing these things. So it's not an easy discussion, but essentially that is the discussion.
If they chose to marry the two, would it only be through Skyward or are there other programs as well?
That's a good question. If they chose to marry the two, would you go with Skyward and something else, or Link and something else, or whatever that might be? The advantage comes when you have a vendor that does both, right?
So, and Skyward's not the only vendor that does
Okay,
both.
that's
Yeah,
my
they're not the only
So
ones.
a district could say, we're gonna go to Power School, because Power School does both. However, the transition on an SIS system is a little bit bigger than the transition on finance is big, but you're talking about hundreds of people training.
This is 200,000 people. This is 85,000 kids. This is 90,000 parents. This is 10,000 employees. I mean, it's having gone through that once, it's a lot of people.
So
But-
we are anticipating new districts will want to stay with Skyward SIS just because trying to change probably won't be very feasible. And if they're gonna stay with Skyward SIS, they could choose the Skyward Business HR portal, or they could stay with Link,
Correct.
but it would be just a little different approach.
That's right.
So it makes sense to get the base of the SIS in first and then add,
Yes.
you've got more flexibility with the finance than you do with.
Yeah, with everything going on, it just sort of makes sense what we're doing right now. Yeah,
Okay.
that's exactly right.
Thank you, that answers my.
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay. We okay to move on? Is that good? Okay. We're gonna give this one to Adam. Alright, I guess they can go that way.
So can I ask one more question as you're leaving?
Yeah.
So another option would be to go Skyward and the HR thing nowish, right? Instead of doing the
Not
other
do
thing,
Link.
The
not
Link.
do Link. Is that even an option?
It's always an option, but I wouldn't recommend that. As an engineer, I like to do one thing at a time, Because if you do two things at a time and something breaks, you don't know which one it is. Does that make sense?
We also, I mean, that decision's really kind of been made, contracts have been signed. The reason why is because the time that it would have taken to go from Olio to Skyward would be, or to Skyward's HR would have been considerable. And Olio probably wouldn't have let us continue to stay on their old model for that amount of time because they're anxious to get us off. And they're patient with us because we're moving to their new program. But if we were moving to something else, they would be less patient with us.
Link is a better bridge than Olio. too.
Correct. Yeah, and it will put us in a better position to move here.
But it's
Just the way the
possible
timing.
you could have to train the secretaries on one thing one year and another thing the next
Which
year.
is why it's a very viable thought to just stay with Link, because Link will definitely work.
All right, so I'm going to take the helm here. Appreciate Paul and the foundation that he laid. I'm about ready to build a house in front of you in record time, so hold on. With regard the house, as Paul mentioned, this is the walls, the roof, the plumbing, the wiring, the stuff that nobody really wants to think about until it stops working and just kind of expect it to work as you move in. Core systems, technology core systems. To put it in brief, there are over 300 of these systems, as Blaine mentioned earlier. There is a lot to this. A few of the major ones: identity management, device management, user accounts, emails, the network, firewalls, filters, security. There's a lot that goes into this, a lot of design, a lot of management, a lot of build. And this comes off of Paul's foundation. We can't do this until we have that. And there's stuff that we're going to talk about later, the departmental stuff and the learning stuff, that doesn't happen until this is in place, much like building a house. You don't furnish it until the drywall's up. You don't put your sink in until the pipes are in the walls. So in that regard, core systems, we have a goal as a department, as Blaine was talking about, to prepare as much as possible before the clock starts ticking, if not already ticking. One of our goals is to do a review and recommendation of each and every one of these 300 plus core systems as much as we possibly can, recognizing that we have limitations. We don't have a budget, and we don't have the authorization to make decisions. The new district leadership teams will have that authority. The new district technology directors will have that authority, but we can most certainly help them. We can review what we currently have, the successes and even the failures that Alpine has, and make a recommendation for them in the future with these core systems. One of the things that we recognize and understand, and this goes to your statement here, we can't bind financially or contractually ourselves to any of these things without guidance. So we will try to work as much as we possibly can with existing leadership and new leadership in order to facilitate as smooth, clean, comfortable of a transition as possible. Okay.
One question, please. When you said you have no budget and no authority, are you talking about a budget from a future district, or are you talking about a budget from this district?
A little both.
Okay.
So obviously nothing from a future district, because we can't spend their money for them. But we do have our existing budget, and as Blaine mentioned, we're already working with some of our vendors to say, okay, we have one instance of this. Will you be willing to work with us and create 3 independent, separate instances, a north or a central, west, a south? And we're getting various answers, positive and not so positive. Great question. To give you a slight taste of that, we have a snapshot here, and this is just a simple snapshot of a Google sheet that we have already created, and it's a live document, where on the left you'll notice core systems, SolarWinds, Palo Alto, Proofpoint, CrowdStrike. These are core systems already functioning in our district, and our team, amazing as they are, knowledge-wise, expertise-wise, have already started to develop what's the purpose of the solution. Can we divide it into 3, greens, yellows, reds? Can we do it ahead of time? And we're already trying to map out what resources may be needed, timelines, teams that would be involved and engaged in that. We may not be able to push the button or make the purchase, but we can map it. And so if it's us or if it's the next team, they can literally just sit down in front of a map and go, okay, 12 steps, guys, and we're there. And again, like we're saying, recommendations. If a new team goes, that is not the direction we want to go, they can put it to the side, no feelings hurt, and we understand that, new direction, new district, we have new directions. Okay.
One thing I'd add is that's a picture of like 17 lines on a spreadsheet. That's tab 1 of the spreadsheet. There's about 60 on that tab. There's 5 other tabs. And obviously the work's not all done. We're just starting this work, but we are trying to go through. It's really a system by system and make determinations and recommendations.
Like mentioned earlier, really 300 plus core systems. So we built the house, we built the frame. Let's talk about the finishes. We understand that technology isn't isolated to the technology department. Nutrition has a technology system. Special ed has a technology system. CTE, HR, all have technology systems. One of our goals to push and move forward on those core systems is because we will not, in a lot of these cases, be able to set these ones up until those cores are set up. Again, like building a house. You don't put sinks in, you don't paint the walls until the drywall's up and the plumbing's in the wall. So in that regard, not to call like nutrition a sink or anything like that, but before nutrition, and there are 3 nutrition directors come in and go, I envision nutrition with this, this, and this. We have to have the plumbing in the wall. And it can be generic, and it can facilitate many different things, but we need to have that ready so that when nutrition is ready to make their decision, does Titan, their current system, work for all 3 districts? Or does 2 want to go with Titan and 1 wants to go with whatever? We'll be ready to facilitate that. Key to this also, each department's going to have their own technology teams. So our guys that are going to be working on Paul's foundation and my house and walls and plumbing and whatnot are also going to have to be the guys that help nutrition set up their system. And if they're too busy in the walls, they won't have time I shouldn't say won't have time. They will be challenged to have time to set up these systems for these other departments. But also recognizing that they are on a time crunch and they have crucial deadlines as well. And again, these obviously will be held back until we have special ed directors, nutrition directors, and district leadership to help guide us.
So currently, in Alpine, do we have tech people in each of those departments? In some?
Some, yes.
Yeah.
I have a specialist in nutrition. I have a specialist in special ed. I have a specialist in media, but transportation, no. HR, no.
They have great people that are good with tech and partner with us, but
Yep.
not necessarily.
And really, with setting up the system, there's going to be a lot of engineering involved. So the same guys who are setting up our network may be the same guys who are setting up nutrition. Great question. I'm flying fast. Pause me if you need me, or need me to.
I did have a question, but it was on the slide before. You had listed on there, can a shell be created for each entity? What is a shell?
A shell is basically just the loosest creation of the device. So, for example, a directory system. Can we create a directory, but not put student names in it or put individuals in it quite yet? But it's ready for the data input. So can we create the system for a directory or nutrition? Can we build it all out, but wait until the day comes and then do the export out of our student system into nutrition, and they're ready to go on day.
Okay, so what you're saying is like, instead of, providing the washer and dryer, you're gonna set up everything with the plumbing and the electricity all set up, so when the time comes, you can put it in.
Bingo. So literally, it's right there. You go to RC Building, you buy your dryer, And it's plug and play at that point. That's what we're trying to do is
And
make
so is it did you put, can a shell be there? Because the question before was, can the resource, what was it, can the resource?
Can the
have-
resource
Divided
be
into
divided
three.
Yeah,
into
divided into three.
Mhm.
And so, for example, the one that's the no, do you see the first no on
Yep,
there?
right up there top.
Or the fourth one down or whatever, the first.
MFA solution.
It
for
doesn't matter, but
systems
one of the
and-
no's,
Mhm.
is it, no, we can't do that, is it, but we can provide this part? Is that kind of, do those two things kind of go together?
The yellow is the unsolid no, right?
Yes, so if the yellow's a maybe, you know,
Yeah.
just like.
Or requires additional investigation.
Right.
Okay.
Additional
That's
investigation.
the,
The investigating
that's
process.
the red or the?
Yellow.
The
Green.
yellow.
Oh, the yellow,
The yellow
okay.
is the unsure.
The red is pretty much hard stuff, and it might be because of financial reasons, or it might be because of vendors' inability to, or desire to work with us as far as that goes. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like, oh, well, the new districts won't have AD audit. It just means we won't be able to implement that until we literally either have budget or.
Yeah, they won't give us something to work on before district purchase.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, Shelley.
Great question. We talked about major departments. Let me wrap up with the learning tools. And as Paul mentioned, this is what makes a home a home. This is your drapes, your furniture, your dishes and stuff like that. This is where the rubber meets the road with our students. And this is yet again another one of those ones where Mastery Connect already lets you under. They all integrate with Skyward. And they all integrate with our network. You can't put furniture in a house that doesn't have walls. So in our attempt to put all of this together and put the manpower where it needs to be, when it needs to be, that's why we're talking about this proposal here. Okay, I just built and furnished a house in front of you. And we're gonna open up for some questions, right?
Yeah. Do you
I
have?
thought we were moving in.
We're gonna next we're gonna kind of lay out the timeline. So we've given you a lot of information. We want to show you actual time when we think we need to be working on foundation and walls, and so Darren's gonna move forward with that for us.
So, actually, before we talk about the timeline, we just want to do a quick history, lessons learned from history. Some of you may know that I used to work for the Canyon School District. I actually worked for Jordan School District when the vote took place to split. And then when the split happened, I chose to become a tech director at Canyons. And so we just wanted to share a little bit that I'd learned being a tech director at the time. And just maybe just a little bit of a trip down memory lane. First is that the vote split happened in November of 2007. It was a wild time. It was kind of a sad time actually for employees in Jordan. There was a moment of sadness. They actually turned their website the day after the vote. They turned their website black and white, just to kind of send a message to the public that we're sad about some of this. A year later, the Canyon superintendent was hired. So it took them a year, just like we anticipate it'll take a little over a year to hire new superintendents, like you were talking about earlier. A little bit after the superintendent was hired, they then hired other key staff, like HR directors. The IT director came soon after that in January, February of 2009, just a little after the superintendent was hired. Official operations began in July for the district, although many of the district staff still worked between that time as we were hiring. It was a crazy time of hiring and building a district culture. And then the first day of school was August 26th in 2009. So there was about 7 months of time between when the IT director and other key department directors were hired and the school started. That 7-month timeline, I'm here to tell you that was too short. And I'll share with you why. Canyons, when we opened in 2009, we had 33,000 students. It was about the size of what the new central district will be. There were 44 schools, and at the time as tech directors, we were really focused on 52 key systems. So here in Alpine, we're talking about 300 systems. At the time with Canyons, we were focused on 52. And it's interesting too that even with 33,000 students, that size of a district, Canyons chose to initially hire 4 tech directors. 1 director of IT, and then they split it up kind of like really the organization we have, where they had a director of technology services. That was me. I supervised our help desk, our break fix team, and then also what would be our innovative learning coaches. Ed tech specialists is what we called them at the time. So we had a director of technology services, support, and deployment. But we really needed these 4 different types of leadership in order to make the department work. And remember the timeline. Other lessons learned were that we thought as tech directors we would just go in and set up new systems and everything would be great. But we learned within those first few months that wasn't reality. We learned that we really needed to go in and learn the existing architecture, why things were set up the way they were. Then we needed to take time to undo all of that before we could then install the new systems. And that extra time it was really kind of painful for us to learn that process fresh. Nobody told us that you're gonna have to go in and do all of this. We just thought, oh, we'll just build a new system. We're building a new district. That's not how it happened. We had to tear it down first. And so through all of this, I'm here to tell you that 7 months was not enough time. Those 7 months for the tech department, if you think about it, so I was hired in February, and those next few months were spent trying to hire key staff and build a district culture and set up systems. And so it took us several months just to hire the staff and start to have a common vision. I wrote in here 16-hour days, and they were literally 16-hour days, 6 days a week for 7 months. By the time school started in August, our staff was exhausted. And then at the same time, it was not enough time to get Skyward fully functional. We started our first day of school as Canyons, and Skyward was in operation. There were times that we had a number of issues. Key cards weren't working, for example, to get into some of the schools. There were so many issues that I would love to be able to avoid that this time around. I hope we can learn from history. And so what we've done is we've tried to think through the timeline, and some of it that you've lined out, and you have a copy of this. I want to give you just a minute to look through this timeline. See things that stand out to you, and then I'll point out 3 or 4 things that really matter to us in just a minute. So let me give you a minute, just look through this timeline. Okay, a few things that stand out to us. First, Paul already talked about this. We're already starting to think through and begin implementing the new FIS and SIS. We're moving to Link ERP. We're planning for Q, already a transition. We anticipate that starting really as early as next year with Q, trying to train teachers, train staff on how to use it, and by early summer of 2026, and I like what you said, Superintendent, about the decisions, July 2026 being a key moment in time. We need the new districts to decide on either Q or Link or which financial system or which student information system they're going to implement as early as possible in summer of 2026. We see that as a key moment too. That's the foundation. If we can get that foundation laid early, that will help us down the line to be able to put up the rest of the house. So that's a key time. In order for that to happen too, we do feel like we'll probably need key staff actually to be selected. it's hard to choose a finance system when you don't have the right leaders who will be using the finance system in place to make those decisions.
Meaning the three.
In all 3 new districts. Yeah. And at some point soon in that time, because all of the other systems and their development depend on these decisions, we're really hopeful that we can have key departmental directors hired as early as possible in fall-ish of 2026. Maybe they're not fully working for the new districts, but we know who they are and we can ask them their opinions for what should be developed, so that eventually we can begin developing the framework, kind of like Adam was talking about, the shell. We can develop shells in these systems, maybe not populate them with students and things like that, but at least get started as early as possible, fall of 2026. So that hopefully we'll have enough time, enough runway to be able to have these things in place and fully functional by the first day of school in 2027, actually August 2027.
But you also want a little longer landing pad, so it's not like, I mean, we'd hate to see that now you're troubleshooting the first day of school, this isn't working, key cards. I mean, to give you enough time that you can work out those bugs before the first day of school.
Absolutely. The more time we can give these teams here to do the work needed to get systems functional, the better.
So a lot of the timeline really falls on choosing key people, both in technology and outside of technology, as early as possible in the new district, so that they can begin in earnest to really start that work. Yeah, it's going to be critical, and we know that depends on new districts and their own decisions, but we would hope that we could help influence to help them understand what that might be.
We know that building a transition plan is your role. That's not our job.
We've not done this before.
Yeah, we're all going through. Well, some of us get to do this twice. When Blaine hired me, he didn't tell me we were going to do this twice.
That's not why I hired him.
Can you go back to the timeline?
Yeah.
So is this people on the bottom, pretty much?
Yeah, people on the bottom, new boards elected
Okay.
next November, superintendent early, and business administrators early 2026. Right after that, if it follows like we did in Canyons, it will be just a couple months after that we start to hire HR directors, tech directors, key staff. Maybe they're not fully working for the new districts, but they can at least be consulted about key decisions.
This is so important, this timeline right here. We're just talking about how key this is to everything. It's kind of beautiful.
We are wondering what thoughts you have about setting up the new systems for new districts and how this timeline might align with what you're thinking. It feels like some of it does, but maybe some of the nuances are a little off.
Yeah, and I think I love your word consulting. So it may not be that everyone's in place July 1 or June of 2026, but in that summer, early fall, at least the key people that are in place have someone to consult with, bring it to the board and say, based upon what has already been set up, based upon the direction we want to go, here's where I think we ought to move forward.
Yeah.
Because you don't need every jot and tittle figured out. You just say, do you want us to support continued development down this path? And so I think if we're thinking everyone has to be hired at that point, no, but there needs to be someone that's taking responsibility to understand that, make an informed decision, get that information to the board so the board can check off the things that they need to do so that they're in sync with the direction the district is.
Well said.
And it really does come back to that, where it is a little different model, where in Jordan and Canyons, Jordan's continued to exist. So people got hired for Canyons and they worked full-time for Canyons as soon as they were hired. Where with us, we need people to continue to work for Alpine and keep Alpine running, but then hopefully know their assignment in a new district so they can start, and we'll all work together. We're committed to make that work, and collaboratively say we all want all three districts to work, if we can have that. But that's a key philosophical point that districts will have to say, we're good with that.
And I think a limitation may be that it's easier to make 3 versions of the same thing than 3 versions of different things.
Right.
So if a new district comes in and say, well, that's great, but we're gonna go in this direction and we need all of the Alpine current employees to set this up for this district, that's gonna be a little bit of a challenge. So the momentum, the ability to make 3 versions of this, of all the same thing, is gonna be much easier for the current staff to be able to put that in place than if you're tasked to say, well, the South wants this, the Central wants this, and the West wants this, and you're developing 3 separate systems.
Correct.
So I think there's some benefit and some momentum, and given the number of employees that we will have at that point, to be able to facilitate at least some similarities across districts. We're more likely to get that in place if we're more similar than different.
Absolutely.
In terms of the, when it comes time to buy the dishes you want for the new house, great, but we're all gonna have a similar dishwasher.
Yes. Yep. It's a.
Would be helpful, and say, yeah, down the road you can get a new dishwasher, but for now, and you pick whatever plates, flowers, pictures, decor you want, but at this point, we kinda need to decide on a similar set of appliances that will go into each.
Yeah, we're hopeful that new tech directors and new super understand they're kind of buying a spec house and not a custom build, because custom build is gonna take resources that I don't know where those would come
Yeah,
from.
where the customization is, are those things that can be put in
Yeah,
place.
but they can buy different furniture and.
Yeah.
they
Or a
can
year
put-
later.
Yeah.
And historically in Canyons, we adopted Jordan's footprint, pretty much the same core systems, and we still needed far more time to be able to go in and configure them completely.
I think that's a consideration in recommendations.
Yep, for sure. We know we've taken a lot of time. We have a couple other things to talk about. I promise, the next 2 things are much shorter than what we've talked about so far. Matt is gonna just give you an update. We talked quite a bit about data centers before. He's gonna give you an update on where we are.
Quickly skim through this. Again, thank you for your approval to investigate and proceed forward in trying to identify a location for the new data center. Working actively with some of the leaders in the room, trying to find locations for that. So we will report back on that at a later time. But the importance of the new data center, we really need to define where that data center is going to be before May 1st of 2025. Reasoning for that is UETN, each year they go out to bid for all of their circuits with their providers. They make all of their changes for their fiber connectivity at that point in time. That becomes instrumental because from that RFP process, it takes them about 12 months to get all of those connections, changes, things in place and operational. As part of the data center SEEK, we have requested funding in this fiscal cycle 26 capital outlay process for the network room, which consists of our fire suppression systems, our battery backups, our generator, the power in that room, some of those fundamentals within that room. Not the servers, not the components that make things work, but just the bare essentials.
Is there any advantage to that being in a school versus separate from a school? Like our current data center is a standalone.
Correct. With the data centers in comparison, we have the data center in Linden. It's there with the technology department. The technology department, if there's an issue, they can quickly get to that data center and make changes, bring things back up and active. The data center at Westlake, when things go down, the team has to drive from Linden out to Westlake, make repairs, get things back up and operational. It's a little bit disjointed and inconvenient, but it is possible. As we talk about the 3 new districts, we're hopeful that the 3 districts can come to an agreement with the creation of a memorandum of understanding. The 3 districts work together in allowing each other to leverage the already in place utilities or circuits that UETN has provided in those areas. This would include the creation of that new 3rd data center and having its circuits in place. Part of the benefit of this is reducing costs overall to each of the districts. We also, last time, spoke quickly about each district having the ability to locate some of their hardware or their functionality within an adjacent school district's data center. So if Central School District had their data center and they wanted to do some archive or functionality out of the Linden or the South School District's data center, they would have that opportunity to do so. Trying to keep those costs low, trying not to put a lot of additional resources for circuits and those types of things in place. Any questions? This here is a quick architecture diagram of the proposed network connectivity. It looks fairly complex. It is, quite candidly, but it shows on the top left the West Data Center and the connections associated with it. The top right would be the South District and the connections for it. And then in the bottom is the new Central Data Center and the functionality associated with that. What this creates is a fully redundant ring, is what it is called. So in the event each district had some hardware in an adjacent data center and the primary data center went down, they would still have functionality out of the secondary data center. They could still have some of the fundamentals of the school day functional and keep school days open and going.
Can you explain the UVU connection?
So each of these has a different data center that it would feed to. There is a data center in UVU. There's a data center in what is called the downtown data center, downtown Salt Lake, and there is a data center in Salt Lake Community College. So we have diverse paths going out of each of those data centers to create that fully redundant ring going out different directions to the internet.
Those are UEN based.
UEN based is very critical. Good
So
point.
the 3 data centers will all point to a different entity. So if the connection between us and UVU went down, we can actually route all of our traffic through the downtown data center, and we're not sitting down.
And this serves the whole state.
Pardon?
This serves the whole state.
UEN serves the entire state.
All of the higher ed end.
I see. Okay. I was going up here.
Okay. Any other questions, Sarah?
Matt, you mentioned that you requested funds for the FY26 capital budget process. Can you remind us again how much that will be?
So the core data center, and I will add, this does not include any costs associated with construction of a room. This doesn't include anything within the room that needs to be modified. The base cost is about $870,000. I think it was $867,000 on the capital request for this line item.
And so if it doesn't include some of those other things that you're definitely gonna need, you didn't go a little bit higher just in case?
We would need additional funds. We would need to work with Frank and his team to figure out what those needs are.
Do you know the
Engineering.
ballpark of what that would be?
Without knowing the room,
Okay.
Just depends on the room. It might be just
I don't.
some different floor mats and fairly simple. It might be, oh, we gotta put up a wall, we gotta do some other things. But what that covers would be the additional power, the air systems, the battery backups, all of those kind of, yeah. And then what we'd anticipate is in FY27, we'd be asking for the money to put in all the racks, the servers, the backup, the firewall, all of those kind of things, so that data center's up and running. So
good question. Thank you.
So we're well on our way to get all 3 districts with data centers up and running. So we've talked about a lot. We've talked about getting some coherence in how we can staff our new districts and how we can do the work of setting up the new districts. In the meantime, we've talked about all the systems. We've talked about data centers. The last thing is just splitting, saving, and archiving data. And we won't take much time here because there's a lot that we don't know here that we're still figuring out. Sometimes when you think about a data split, you're going to think, oh, it's like we've got 3 trees. We'll just take this tree's worth of data and take it to that district and this tree. But we know that aspen trees under the surface, they're all intertwined. And that's really what our data, so we will have to, in many of our systems, go in and physically separate out. I mean, you think about Skyward and the student information, we'll have to go in and say, student record by student record, which district gets which student records. And that can get complex because you might have a student that started in the South District and is now in the Central District, but usually we keep their records in their old district, so if they come back, we have all those things. So we'll have to work through those things. One of the areas is archival data. we would anticipate that one of the districts would take on the role of archiving and retrieving data. So this is old data. This is when somebody comes and says, I need my high school transcript from 1998. We've got to have, we have those servers, we have that information. But one of the districts is probably going to have to hold that and say, when you need old Alpine information, when you need employment records to prove somebody was employed and what they were paid so that they can retire, we're going to need to have somebody that owns that. And that really probably won't be split, it will just be archived, and somebody will need to take on that role, and then other districts will need to work with them on that agreement and how that might work.
We have backups for that data.
We do.
Currently.
Yes. We'll have to think about splitting data. So this is what I was talking about, where each employee that's current and each student, which district will get their records and how will that work, and will some of these go to both districts because they worked in places that are now in 2 districts? We'd recommend that as new districts get set up, that new districts are going to designate somebody as kind of their person to help with this, and we form a committee and just work through those system by system. Not all of our 300 systems are we going to have to split the data, because many of those, if we get the data right in Skyward in our HR system, then it will just flow down into those other systems. But some of those other systems have their own data. For example, Google. Everyone's worried about what's going to happen with my Google Drive. Well, we're going to have a way for you to be able to move. And that's really what's saving data. So these are employees' personal files and records. We're going to create process for people to do that. It'll probably be a balance of automation and manual. So we could take, for instance, our current Google Drive and just copy everything and give it to their new. But you know, when you move houses and you have to kind of fill up the dumpster with stuff that you don't want to move, this is probably a situation where we're going to ask people to look through their current things and say, what really needs to be moved? And then we'll have an automated process to help move what needs to be moved, and probably get rid of the things that need to be. So there's a lot more here. It's on our minds, but this is probably a little step down the road from really getting these systems in place. So last thing we'd say is, again, the sky's not falling. Skies are blue and sunny. We can make this work. We're confident in our teams. We just need to continue to work forward, solve the problems, and if we have sufficient time and we have the right people to do the work, we're very confident we can make it happen. What additional questions do you have for us? We know we've given you so much information and we're kind of on overload, so we apologize. When we get the opportunity, it's like we gotta talk about this, so I'm sorry if we gave too much.
No questions, just appreciation. The message, I think the manner and the metaphor were all spot on. Your tone, your approach, your we can do this attitude really will help all people in the district do that well, see that well. From perhaps the most complicated aspect of reconfiguration, to have that tone speaks to your character, your professionality, your team. And then the message of there are some things we need to get set up, some things we can hold on, and clarifying that. And then I think the metaphor all gives us a common language with which to refer to that. So as we go forward, I think it will be helpful. You built capacity in this team to understand something that's very complicated and difficult in very simple, understandable ways. Not that we need to get in the weeds, but at least we understand some general ideas. So very well done. Thank you for your work, all of you.
Well, thank you for your attention. We know this is not easy, and it's been amazing the way you've been engaged, so we appreciate it.
I think it's been very helpful to me, very helpful to the team and to the board as well. So thank you.
Okay. And thank you to.
And I don't want to say that so there's no questions.
These are the ones that really do set the tone. That's an amazing team. It's the best in the state, best in the nation. We really have the best team.
Question can still be asked, but I did want to compliment you and your team on the great work, the thoughtfulness of this on several levels. Yes.
As far as this being connected to the state system, is there any indication of financial health that we be available?
So with UEN, generally, they will provide they will provide the money for the circuitry, not for the hardware, but for the circuitry. So those fiber connections for a primary data center. So when we set up a primary data center in the central, UEN goes out to RFP, they will pay for all the circuitry to get to that primary data center. But the secondary data centers UEN won't pay for, and that's why we want to leverage each other's secondary, because we already have the connections there. If one of the districts were to say, I don't want to use that other district, so I want 2 in my own district, they will have to pay for all those connections for the second one themselves. So UEN will pay for the connections to the primary data center, but not the secondary. So we want to leverage that, and that's why we need to get that process.
And this seems to be really people-centric, you know, that your institutional knowledge is very important. When I say you, I mean you. So we'll work hard to get something solid underneath you as far as some kind
Thank you.
of plan.
We would appreciate that. Our staff loves working in the school districts. They've chosen to come to the school districts if they want to make a difference. And frankly, they often came from industry because they love the stability of the school district, and so they're feeling that instability right now. And so anything we can do to help them understand that there's stability here and there'll be stability in Alpine and in new districts will help us to keep the people that we desperately need to keep.
Yeah, and Blaine, you know, there's advocacy for employee protections and to make sure that infrastructure stays in place. Board Member King actually stepped out to continue to advocate for that and work with
And we so appreciate that. We know that
legislator on
that's happening.
And I would say right now we're fairly confident that that will be in statutory protection. So I think that bodes well for a transition. I'm confident we can do the work if we have the people here to do it.
Absolutely. And so we are so grateful for that advocacy that's taking place. We know it's ongoing, and that will be very helpful. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Good job.
Scott, any comments about the team there?
No, just echo those sentiments. I've been in a number of meetings with them, and it is always that complete optimism of let's get it done and work together on it. They're amazing all the way through.
Okay. That is all we have prepared.
Okay, perfect. We are good to break until our public meeting at 6 o'clock. Thank you, everybody. Tonight for our Alpine School District Board of Education meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order. First item on our agenda is that we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance, and that will be led by Dr. Joel Perkins.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then we'd like to welcome Principal Aaron Barth, who will be sharing our inspirational thought this evening.
Thank you. My thought tonight comes from a book written by Fred Rogers, From the World According to Mr. Rogers. It's no secret that I like to get to know people, and not just the outside stuff of their lives. I like to understand the meaning of who people are and what they're saying to me. I love that thought. Truly, who people are. What's their why? What's their lens that they're seeing the world through, and how can I better understand where they're coming from so that we can work together? Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Barth. As the Board of Education, it's important for us to recognize various accomplishments made by students, employees, and patrons from throughout Alpine School District. As we honor the individuals and groups this evening, we acknowledge the families and others who have helped them achieve their goals. Thank you for the support you've offered to those we recognize at this time. We appreciate your attendance here tonight. After the recognitions are completed, you are welcome to leave if you have other obligations this evening. We are thankful for so many teachers and staff members who excel in making a difference for students, parents, colleagues, and others. Tonight, we would like to recognize nominees who've been selected to receive the Alpine School District RISE Award. RISE stands for Remarkable, Inspiring, Selfless, Encouraging. Board Member Wilson.
First, we'd like to honor Nicole Glasgow. Would you come forward, Nicole? Listen right here. Well, she was nominated by Mikkel Nelson, and we'd like to invite Principal Biolo, Dan Biolo, and is Mikkel here as well? Come on up. We want to read this on your behalf. Mikkel wrote, Nicole is the prime example of putting students first at Summit High School. Not only does she keep our team together with her organizational efforts and attention to details, but she always makes time to ensure that every student in our building knows that they come first. Every Summit student is lucky to be loved by her, and she makes a lasting impact on everyone around her. Thank you, Nicole. Right here. Right here, Nicole.
Terrific. For our next award, we would like Kristen Olson, who is a teacher at Rocky Mountain Elementary, to come forward. As well as Jessica Gurney, if she's here, and Principal Lisa Roden. Okay. Well, I'm going to read this tribute from Jessica. She wrote, Miss Olson has been a life-changing teacher for our daughter. Our daughter is in life skills, and Miss Olson has created such a positive and loving space that also has high expectations. She assumes competence and works hard to create a community of inclusion throughout the school. She's a rock star teacher, and we're always so grateful for the immense work she does for not only our daughter, but every student she comes into contact with.
Next, we'd like to have Tamara Barr come forward, a teacher at Cherry Hill Elementary. Tamara. She's been nominated by Bonnie Reed, a parent. If Bonnie's here, we'd love to have her come forward too. And we welcome Principal Ana Rojas. Bonnie Reed, a parent, wrote, "We feel so lucky to have Miss Barr at our school. My daughter has some big ups and downs in her last school year, and so far this year has been full of positives. Mrs. Barr is so supportive and encouraging to her students. She helps them to learn and grow through engaging lessons and fun games. She dedicates time at teacher workshops and observations, telling her students that she's learning to become an even better teacher. I just love seeing her positive outlook on learning and watching the impact it has on my daughter. Thank you, Mrs. Barr.
Next, we will honor Allison Alpizar from Viewpoint Middle School, and we invite Allison, Crystal Nielsen, and Principal Barth to come forward. Crystal wrote, Allison is an amazing teacher. She connects with her students and teaches with a maturity beyond her years in the classroom. She is always working to find better ways to help her students, and it is obvious how much she cares about her students every single day. Allison is the kind of teacher that makes school a place kids want to be. Congratulations, Allison.
Next on our agenda, we are very excited to recognize art students from the Mountain View Cluster. Board Member Wilson.
Yes. Students from Mountain View Cluster have had artwork displayed here at the district office for the past few months. We would like to thank all the students for allowing their art to be displayed in our hallways. Their artwork has transformed the district office into an art gallery of sorts, adding color and beauty for all to enjoy. Quite often, you can see patrons and employees stopping to admire the different pieces that are displayed. I'm one of those people. So, from Summit High School, let's first of all recognize Tayden Levy. Are they outside? Are they out? Okay. Okay, there's Tayden Levy, Landon Thane, Julian Garcia, David Kopf, Aiden Perry, Riley Neese, and Nice, just like it sounds, looks, Cooper Marer. And is this Riley? Riley, welcome. Awesome. Come on up. Do we want to bring everybody up first, or just one by one? Okay. Next, from Cherry Hill, Principal Rojas, if you want to come up with, there she is. We have, our artists are Charlotte Van Wagener, Emily Quadra, oh, Ariana Perez Batista, Manti Lewane, Malia Iremia, Brian Hernandez Zapata, Mateo Lopez Zaguelen, and Alfonso Brito Torres. And I'm Next, we're going to recognize our students from Lake Ridge Junior High. And we have, first of all, Kenneth Cummins, Leah Carson, Abigail Erdman, Sadie Hansen, Lucy Hannant, Maya Francis, Principal, you're going to have to help me here. Arantaxa, Rebelar, Leela Bray, Mia Hyatt, Roseanne Marriott, Samantha Ritana, and Eliana Wooten. And I'm sorry if I got your name wrong. Thanks to Principal Elison for accompanying his students. Next, we're going to feature Mountain View High School. Let's give them a chance here. Mountain View High School, Jacqueline Nielsen, Ashlyn May, Addison Francis. Maybe we'll wait till they get in. There we go. Raise your hand when I call your name. Jacqueline Nielsen, Ashlyn May, Addison Francis, Eden Ely, Haley Krug, Tristan Chi, Janica Fulda, Samuel Kipp, Aubrey Causey, Jackson Peterson, and Natalia Lobo. We appreciate art teacher Bart Francis being here, as well as Principal Kevin Henshaw. Thanks so much. Next, we're going to recognize Orem Elementary. Can our students come out? Ooh. Here we go, Orem Elementary. Thank you. From Orem Elementary, we want to recognize Amparo Taran, Zipporah Zundel, Nicole Vasquez Limus. Nicole is here. Katie Johnson, Antonella Lopez, Lily Mendenhall, and Ray Mahwini. Awesome. We appreciate Vice Principal Vanessa Colorado accompanying her students from Orem Elementary. Next, we'd like to honor Trailside Elementary. It's kind of a traffic jam. Trailside. Super. Just raise your hand when I call your name, okay? We'd like to honor Daphne Jenkins, Ray Nickel, Jet Perrinode, Ezra Hatfield, Ren Richards, Judith Delara, and Elijah Noble. Thank you to their art teacher who also accompanied them. Next, we'd like to honor Vineyard Elementary artists. Come on in. We have, raise your hand if you hear your name, okay? Luke Loveland. We have Maya Zipro, Luke Simers, June Owen, Tatum Tavana, Eleni Zuniga Hernandez, and Luis Doxy. I rolled my R when I didn't use. And thanks to the vice principal for coming, and to Kim Tomlinson, their art teacher. Thanks so much. And finally, we'd like to recognize our artists from Westmore Elementary. Come on in. Welcome. Raise your hand when you hear your name. Declan Binion, Melina LeBaron, Valerie Estrada Ocampo, Scarlett Chamberlain, Maria Rubina, Sebastian Morillo, and Blossom Shelton. And they're accompanied by their principal, Vic Larson. That's our artist from Mountain View Cluster. Thanks so much.
I want to thank all those who attended for our recognitions. It is now time for community comment, and we do not have any community comment scheduled. So we will move on to approval of the minutes. I'm supposed to turn this over to you because this was awkward last time. Okay. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes.
I second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion by Sarah and a second by Mark. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Superintendent.
Yes, you've received your claims for the month, and I recommend you approve the claims.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the claims.
Thank you. And do we have a second? Okay, so we have a motion by Mark and a second by Stacy. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next up, Superintendent.
Yes, you have routine business to approve this month, the budget summary, the Alpine Foundation Board summary, personnel hiring and releases. I recommend that you accept the routine business.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the routine business.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Stacy and a second by Ada. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Dr. Farnsworth.
Yes, we have 3 action items. The first is Resolution 2025-002, authorizing the purchase of property of 11.43 acres located in Eagle Mountain. You'll notice that that is related to the next item. We are switching some property because of UDOT access. We need property in that area for a future elementary school, and selling the property, purchasing the property will allow us to have a great location for that, and would recommend that you approve the Resolution 2025-002, authorizing us to purchase that property.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion regarding Resolution 2025-002, and I think I'm going to motion to approve this one. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Julie, a second by Joylyn. Any discussion? I just want to say how much I appreciate staff working so hard on this. I know that there were some challenges with the prior property, which I know we'll address next, but making sure that we have appropriate locations for our elementary schools that are related specifically to making sure that they're placed in the right space for student safety is essential. So I appreciate all the work that staff did, also coordinating with the city of Eagle Mountain to make sure that property was in the right space. So just like a shout out to all of our staff. Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously.
Thank you for approval of that, and thank you for recognizing the staff for their great efforts on that. Resolution 2025-003 is authorizing the sale of 11.46 acres in Eagle Mountain to UDOT for freeway expansion. Recommend that you approve that sale.
Okay, so do we have a motion for this resolution?
I move that we approve Resolution 2025-003, authorizing the sale of 11.46 acres in Eagle Mountain to UDOT for freeway expansion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Joylyn and a second by Ada. Any discussion? I actually just wanted to say on this one, gratitude once again for our staff. We found out that this piece of property we had slated for an elementary school was supposed to be a space where a new freeway was coming in. Not a great spot for an elementary school. And I also want to recognize the work that our staff had to do because of code changes. That meant we had to get resolutions from the cities of Eagle Mountain, Saratoga, Cedar Fort, and Fairfield. And so I want to recognize those city and town councils for their contribution, as well as our staff coordinating that. So thank you for that. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously.
Next item is to update our 25-26 school calendar. I'll invite Dr. Joel Perkins, Chief of Staff, to come forward to answer any questions on that. We have made some adjustments to that calendar. We were able to discuss that last week as a Board of Education. Those adjustments are to be consistent with the state changes to allow us to have some days at the beginning of the year for kindergarten testing. We were ready to approve that last year, but the state had not had their adequate time to review that, so we're bringing it back. We recommend that you approve the changes in the calendar for the 25-26 school year.
So if you look at your screen, you can see there 19th, now designated with a red square border around that, will be the first day of kindergarten. Also, if you look below, these changes will be added. The rule indicates that we need to also designate assessment days, and so those are indicated what those assessment days would be, the window for kindergarten assessment there. In addition, by way of information, we're able now to secure the date for the ACT, which will be on March 11th, so tomorrow, pending approval, of course, of the changes to the beginning of the school year, we will be able to complete the 8A B day for the following year and release it to our teachers so they can get planning. Any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Perkins. Do we have a motion to adopt the updated 2025-2026 school calendar?
I move that we approve the updated 2025-26 calendar.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion by Ada and a second by Sarah. Any discussion?
Thank you for your hard work on this and making sure that we're keeping up with state. Well, I think in this case, the districts push the state to allow for this kindergarten testing that's so important to the instruction of our kids in their very first year of instruction. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Dr. Farnsworth.
Yes, the next series of items are discussion action items, so we can discuss them. Board of Education is welcome to discuss them. If so moved, you can take action on them. The first item is a item that was discussed significantly last board meeting with various motions and emotions that associated with that item. I would invite the curriculum team members to come forward. We have more than just Dr. Carter here. She is supported by others that are welcome to come forward and clarify. You received in your packet of information, last time we discussed, we talked about curriculum adoption that we would need to attend to while we remain Alpine School District, and then would set up future districts for success as well. There were questions regarding dollars amount associated with that, and so we will turn it over to Dr. Carter and those who are here to help answer questions and invite a discussion of the board. If you feel ready to take action, the action that we would probably need to be taken is to authorize this to go forward for budget consideration for future funding so that we could move forward on the curriculum adoption, benefiting Alpine currently and setting up the new districts for success in the future.
So we provided the PDF for you, and so you've had a chance to look at that. Some things that I would really like to point out is that going through reconfiguration is painful for everyone, and this will provide stability to our teachers in all three curriculum areas of literacy, math, and science. It's a matter of we can pay now what the amounts are, or we can pay more later. If there is a curriculum adoption, our adoptions normally run about $8 million, so you would take the percentage of the students that you would have in your district, and you would know about how much that would cost. It also takes 2 to 3 years to do a curriculum adoption, so this would give you 2 years to set up for that adoption if you chose to. Right now at the state, we had said that the math would be, new math curriculum or new math standards would be coming out. That has changed. There has been a change at the State Board of Education, and those are on hold right now. Science are also on hold, so right now you wouldn't be looking at any new standards, so these programs would fit.
Dr. Carter, do you have that PDF on your computer?
Yes.
Would you mind putting that on the screen? It's page 141 of the board docs, but I think having it in a central spot will allow you to reference some specific items. So thank you. Looks like we've got it pulled up already. So
Oh, thank you so much for making that easier for me.
I apologize for interrupting you.
No, you're great. I believe, so we estimate that if you do it now rather than later, you'll save almost $900,000 across the district if we meet the deadlines in the document. So I think we could entertain any questions that you have.
So, Dr. Carter, just to clarify, I know we've talked about how we have this contract with Wonders through 2030.
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking about this curriculum adoption, we would essentially be kind of prepaying as Alpine for that curriculum, correct? So that's also a future expense that those new and reorganized districts would not have to bear,
Right.
because essentially we're prepaying and front-loading them, with the exception of, I know that there was some discussion about online supports and how that was a separate thing, I think, for iReady. And so basically this is also helping put districts in a position where they are not having to budget for the first couple of years for these kind of adoptions in curriculum. So we're trying to kind of get ahead of this.
That's exactly right.
And can you clarify, when you said that it's about a 2 to 3 year process for the adoption, about an $8 million cost, is that assuming all 3 of these, or is that assuming like one adoption of like literacy, one adoption of math? Can you just clarify that
So
number?
right now, an adoption of literacy is about 8 million. An adoption of math would be very similar. So you'd have to take the percentage of students that you would have in your district. So it wouldn't be the 8 million, but it would be a percentage plus whatever cost increases happen between now and then.
But for example, we're not talking about $24 million now. We're talking about spending essentially $4.23 million, which would potentially save those districts as a whole $24 million through roughly 2029 by not having to adopt any additional curriculum.
That's right.
Okay.
I just have a question. As I've been reading through this, the science, it says that there's a deadline of April 30th. Is that for Gizmos, Mystery Science, and Mission IO, or is that for just one of those?
I think it's for all of them. Is that true, Danielle? Yes, it's for all of them. They have, their deadline actually was December of 24, and we've been really relentless in trying to get them a good price. So they have bent over backwards for us, and that's the deadline they've given us. So that's for all 3.
I have a follow-up question. So do we have money for the Gizmos, Mystery Science, and Mission IO in our existing 24-25 budget? Fiscal year 25.
For those items there?
For Gizmos, Mystery Science, and Mission IO.
I'm not sure. There was an adoption, literacy adoption thing last year for 3.4 million, but I don't know if that's in that same budget. That's different. So I think if this was approved, it would have to be kind of preloaded in FY25 to be able to make it work.
And is there room in the FY25 budget to preload that?
If it was to be approved
24.
in the 25.
No,
Well, we're in
the-
FY25 now,
Yeah,
and then
in the
FY26 is the
25.
upcoming one.
Yeah, no, I'm in the FY25.
Yeah. Yeah, if it was approved, there's some one-time money that could be available for that.
So are you saying that would accommodate if we chose to go through July 2029, or is that just through 2028?
On those materials, it looks like the pricing is it's both. That would get that new district through 1 year of implementation. I think I would recommend that we take that increment money, fund that through 2028, so they have that first full year, and then they could choose to advance that further if they wanted to with their own resources.
So, but I thought the deadline we had to secure if we were going to do it for 2 years. That was my understanding.
You If you look at the difference in the pricing between 2028 and 2029, it's very small. So you're getting a lot of resource for a very small amount of money if you go through 2029. But you don't have to. We can look at every subject differently if you want to. It's not like we have to say 2029 or bust.
Not at all.
We don't have to.
No, I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying, after Julian's question, I just want to be sure that if we're going to approve something through 2029, that we do have the money now to address that.
We have some money in a grant for STEM education, which math and science would both consider that. Dr. Perkins has said that we could consider that money to go towards these purchases as well.
Can you see that name one more time? Who did you say said?
Dr. Perkins.
Perkins. I didn't hear the Perkins part. Thank you.
I think you're referencing the TI
Yes.
TI money that is in the
It's a
foundation.
STEM grant in the foundation already, and it's been given to Alpine School District for all Alpine School District students at this point. So I think that that would be a good use of that funding to support STEM education.
And I'm sorry, follow-up question. And if we don't go that route, we still have money for the science in the 24-25 one-time funding budget.
Yeah, there's a lot of one-time funding that can be used because of the truth and taxation that happened in August. A lot of those things we're looking forward to FY26. Some of them the board's decided to implement some in FY25, but there is money there for one time.
I would be supportive of using that one-time funding. I would not be supportive of using the TI funding just because for me personally, I don't know that that is in line with what they envisioned when they made that donation.
They allowed us to do anything STEM related district-wide.
I have one clarifying question. The adoption timeline, is that an instrument of district policy or is that state policy? That sequence of events.
It's good practice. It's not like you have to do everything exactly as it said. It's just really good practice to go through all of those steps.
So these are things that we would want to pass on to a new school district, this
Yes.
adoption process that we've developed.
Yes.
Okay.
You have to go with state recommendation, and then you preview it, you have a committee review it, you share it with parents and teachers. It just is quite a long process. You want to make sure you get the right program when you're spending that much money.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have anyone who's interested in making a motion?
I'd actually like to make a couple motions.
Okay, go for it.
So the first motion I would like to make is that we approve the K-12 science through the 2029 school year to be funded out of the FY25 budget.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Joylyn and a second by Stacy to adopt the K-12 recommendation for science through 2029 out of the FY25 budget. Did I get that right, Joylyn? Okay.
Does this fall within the purview of our agenda? I mean, is it? I'm just questioning.
They can. I mean, yeah, you can make a motion with that specificity if you choose.
Question to Board Member Lincoln. So basically, you're taking this item and splitting it by subject.
So science has a different deadline than everything else, and my next motion would make it very precarious for us to get the science by the deadline. So I wanted to secure the science by the deadline, and that is why I moved to have motions.
Thanks for that clarification.
Okay, any discussion?
Is that science total the 1.43?
Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Joylyn, did you want to make a different motion?
I move that we adopt the elementary language arts and mathematics curriculum through 2029 for FY 2026 budget considerations.
Okay, so I have a motion by Joylyn. Do we have a second? Okay, so I have a motion by Joylyn, a second by Stacy. Joylyn, this is what I heard, that you want to adopt the ELA and math through 2029 to be considered as part of the FY26 budget process.
Correct.
Okay, any discussion?
So is there any problem with that from staff's perspective, or?
The literacy purchase is already complete, so you don't have to include literacy if you don't want. The only one left outstanding is math. Am I right there? Okay, yeah.
So does that need to be finished now, or could it be in the 26 budget?
I believe, let me just scroll down.
At those current prices, we have until the end of this calendar year. Each calendar year, the price per student goes up about $1 per student typically.
So December of 2025, we have until December of 2025.
And the budget process would conclude well before that. So if it
Right,
passed through
correct.
the process.
Correct.
Is there some reason to wait?
I have a hard time committing funding when I don't know what I'm choosing funding against. So going through the budget process allows us to make, at the finance committee, to really make a detailed choice. I just didn't want to commit funding completely to something that I don't know what other funding needs are going to come through that budget process.
I guess from my perspective, I think this is, I don't see anything in the budget process that would change my mind about funding these curriculum items. So I'm hesitant to delay. Seems like we're better to finish this up now, but that's my perspective.
So my thought process here is it's almost a $3 million ask. And historically, like when we were doing literacy, we said, we're going to put an amount of money, try to build that into the budget process so it's not just a one-time funding. So I would fine with the science because of the deadline, but I would prefer that we have this go through the process like we do all other items.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion by Joy Lim, the second by Stacy, to adopt the ELA and math curriculum through 2029 to be going through the FY26 budget process. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I have, I oppose.
I'm opposed.
Okay, so I have no's from Ada and Mark.
Can we
Sorry.
Can I clarify the motion?
Yes.
Yeah.
It expires in 26, 27, so I think the motion was to go through 26, 27. I think what the motion is to extend it beyond the 20. Am I not understanding that? It's already under contract through 26, 27.
Yes.
The motion needs to extend that further for us
To
to
2029.
2029.
And it was just,
Right, but
Yeah.
the motion was to extend it through 26, 27. I think we want to extend that through. And Julie's repeat of that.
Oh, sorry if I
Yeah.
said my numbers wrong. I meant 2020.
Okay. I was just clarifying for the record that we're extending this to, the motion is to extend it to 28, 29.
Yes.
sorry, my concern is that the motion included both subjects and it only needed to include one, correct? So, since we've already made the literacy.
Okay, it looks like that passes 5-2. Okay, next up, policy number 4405.2.
Yes, we'd invite our legal counsel, Craig Brinkerhoff, to come forward. Thank you, curriculum members. Appreciate your work on that, sharing that information with the board. Policy 4405-2, additional cost of insurance. We recommend the retirement of that policy pending board discussion and desire to move to action.
I just want to acknowledge our classified association that we've been working with on these policies and their willingness to clean up some of the policies that are no longer applicable or that are outdated. And these are three that we've coordinated with them on, that they have given their stamp of approval, if you will, to bring these before the board to be retired. So this first one, it was a policy that we believe should have been really just in a negotiated agreement for a particular year that insurance costs wouldn't rise. And that was last done, let's see, in January 2009. And then I would just bring to your attention that costs of insurance, including classified association insurance rates, did go up last year. And so if this policy were in effect, that would have not been appropriate. But this is out of date, and it's out of practice, and so we're wanting to retire it.
I move that we retire policy 4405.2, the additional cost of insurance.
Second. Okay, so we have a motion by Sarah and a second by Emily. Any discussion?
basically, we've kind of been going through the 4000s, the policy 4000s, which are our negotiated agreements, and redundancy and trying to clean up, just like what Craig said. This is probably the best thing to do. It's a kind of an easy peasy cleanup.
Any other discussion?
I think this just makes sense. It looks like maybe part of the negotiation was that it had to be in policy for some reason, but it really is out of place in a policy document. So it looks weird, and it is weird.
Sweet. That is a great comment, Ada. Okay, so we have a motion by Sarah and a second by Emily. All in favor of retiring policy number 4405.2, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next up we have policy 4479, sexual harassment.
Yes, we also
sorry.
recommend, if the board has the will, to retire that. It's not that we are not going to address sexual harassment, but it is located in other policies. And so we would recommend, after discussion, that the board approve the retirement of this policy, given that the policies to address such incidents are handled elsewhere.
Thank you, Superintendent. We currently have 5 policies on sexual harassment, one for each of the associations and one for students, and then a general one. We have been in our workings with OCR this past year, 2 years, on cleaning up our sexual harassment practices. And one of those things that we're doing is consolidating all those policies into one. And so we will be planning to keep policy 7150, which will be applicable to all of those groups, and it's our intention to piece by piece retire all the other sexual harassment policies.
Craig, I just want you to know you avoided like a huge issue because I had so many comments on this policy about the mays and the shells and this doesn't align, and I got real into it and had a page of notes before I realized it said retire on it, because believe me, you would not have liked what I was going to hit you with. So I'm really glad for both of us that this is a retire policy.
Yeah.
So do we have a motion regarding policy number 4479, retiring sexual harassment?
I move that we retire policy 4479, sexual harassment.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, with a motion by Mark and a second by Ada, all in favor, oh, sorry, any discussion?
Just one question. Is this particular policy, is this the employee one?
This is for classified
This is
employees.
classified,
Yes, there's
okay.
another for certified, there's another for administrative, and there's another for students.
Just wanted to see which one we're ticking off.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is classified, and we'll work on the others coming up.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I just appreciate making sure that we're concise and all in one location. It becomes very confusing if there are 5 different policies that have different mays and shalls, or have just one different may and shall. It just sets a whole different scenario up. So I appreciate the work to consolidate to one.
Okay, all in favor of retiring policy 4479, sexual harassment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously.
Okay, the last policy that we want to retire at this time is policy 4480, classified printing policy. And we recommend your retirement of that policy.
This particular policy is just outdated. It indicates that the school board will provide an electronic copy of policies to the Classified Association upon request. These are always available electronically without requesting them. They're constantly posted on our website for anyone's perusal at any time. And so this policy's outdated and needs to be retired.
Okay, do we have a motion regarding policy number 4480, classified printing policy?
I move that we retire policy number 4480, classified printing policy.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Joy Lynn and a second by Stacy. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Oh, Principal Jolly. Oh, sorry, this is Dr. Farnsworth.
Wow, still my thunder, President King. So, yes, we are grateful to have Principal Jolly working in his community to find a name for recommendation for Board of Education. So we appreciate your work to launch that school well, and part of that launching is to name it well. And you've been in the process of gathering feedback and reviewing suggestions, and we love to hear. This is just discussion and presentation at this time, and the board will ask questions, and then we will push it to a next board meeting for final approval. So thank you, Principal Jolly, and welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I appreciate this chance to share with all of you the process that we've gone through to this point, to get where we are tonight, to where we're going to propose 3 names for the new middle school in Eagle Mountain. I also want to take a moment and thank not only the board, but also our leadership team and supervisors for putting trust in me to take on this assignment. This has absolutely been the highlight of my career to this point, with the exception of maybe teaching 7th grade day in my first year of teaching the morning after my wife gave birth to our first. But this would be right up there with that. So anyways, that's a story for another day. I want to first just spend a little bit of time walking through the great process that we've gone through, where we have truly engaged with our community as well as our students, staff, and others to get to where we are tonight. We started with some surveys that we sent out to our community shortly after the boundary was finalized. We had about 500 different responders to this survey. There were almost 1,000 school names that were submitted, another 800 mascot names that were submitted. Now that's not individual, that was total. So it wasn't 1,000 different school names, but still we had quite a great response to our survey. We were able to organize those responses so that we could see overall trends, and we also were able to see those trends just based on our student population, what our students had shared with us. So we had a great amount of interest in these committees. We ended up doing 4 different committees. We started with a student committee that had about 22 students on it, included current student council and Latinos in Action students who are serving currently at Frontier Middle, but are boundaried for the new middle school. And so that was our first committee. Our second committee was a parent committee that had parents from our school community council and PTSA, as well as the different boundary committees. And once again, these were parents currently serving at Frontier Middle who are boundaried to the new middle school. I think what's most exciting for me is that we had 32 out of the 44 staff that wanted to participate in the naming process. And I just couldn't tell any of them no, right? And so we ended up dividing that group into 2 different groups. I think originally we were thinking we would come together maybe with 2 different committees, but the interest from staff just, I didn't want to turn anyone away. So we also felt it important that our students get the chance to meet separately from the adults. We felt like that students would have a greater voice and would share that voice better without adults in the room. And so we tried to design a process where their voice was heard, and where we were able to share with them as well as they share with us what their thinking was. So as we jumped into our committee work, each group met separately, and then they met on 2 different occasions. In between each meeting, we would, the committee members would purposely seek feedback from others. We had parents that sought feedback from neighbors and friends and families. We had students that sought out feedback from other students. I had one student council member that created a text group with 30-something different kids in it where they would banter back and forth and share ideas. And then, of course, we had teachers that got feedback, and in many cases, these teachers would take time with their students in class to share the different ideas that were happening and get their feedback on that. After every round of meetings, we would get summaries of what each group was thinking. We would distribute those to the different committees, and through that process, we were able to identify some commonalities. and name and mascot options were slowly narrowed down and improved upon. Now, when we got to the end of those 2 different rounds of meetings, we brought back some final committees. We had met twice. They made recommendations. At that point, we had a smaller committee come together that had 4 parents and 8 staff members, and we also brought back that same student committee. And we took the opportunity to share and to dialogue and to learn from each other. So with that in mind, I would like to tease you a little bit. We have 3 great names that we absolutely love. We feel good about the names that we've put forth. I'm going to present these names to you in alphabetical order and in no particular order. We also want to share with you, even though your purview is the name of the school and not the mascot and the colors, but we want to share the mascots and colors with you as well, so you can see exactly where the committee went. We also, I should have a little disclaimer here that the images that you're going to see are not our official proposed logos or fonts or anything like that, but we have so many talented people on these committees, and AI is a wonderful thing, and we had a lot. I think after every meeting, I would get a few emails from committee members saying, "Ooh, look at this," and that they had created using some type of a program or that. So we brought some of those together to share those with you. So our first proposed name is Coyote Ridge, the Mavericks, or the Coyote Ridge Middle School. You're going to see that there is a common theme throughout all 3 names. That our students and our community love this idea of the coyote. The name itself is, I think, quite unique. Obviously, the school is located on a ridge line, so as we're looking at Coyote Ridge, it's obviously located on a ridge line. It provides an aspirational image for our students. Coyotes are not just indigenous to the region, but they are tough, strong, they're resilient. They're intelligent, they're clever, and they're resourceful problem solvers. I have a secretary in the front office at Frontier Middle School who lives right by our school and has told me many stories about their interactions with the coyotes that live behind their home. We also love just this collaborative identity. They travel in packs, and we see that as we move forward with whatever name we go with, that we're going to be able to really create a great sense of community around this idea of this collaborative identity and this idea that we are a pack and that we go together and that we're better with each other. So the students like in particular like this mascot quite a bit, the Mavericks. It embodies a rugged spirit of independent adventure and exploration. Mavericks are risk takers, and they boldly seek creative solutions. They also tend to galvanize others to take action, maybe when that action might be something that we might be hesitant to go after. And our committee members felt a non-animal mascot paired with Coyote Ridge was best. They certainly do not like the Coyote Ridge Coyotes. And so we played around with a number of different names and landed on Mavericks because of these ideas. So that is our first proposed name. Any questions to this point? Okay, super. All right, by the way, our colors are consistent for all 3 names. Our students love this idea of this black and this gold. They call it a Vegas gold, along with just a little bit of sage green. That is obviously something that you see quite a bit out there in the Eagle Mountain area. So, all right, option number 2, the Sage Canyon Middle School Coyotes. Another name, why Sage Canyon Middle? Well, the sage plant is resilient and hardy. And obviously sage is abundant in that region. We also like the fact that sage represents wisdom and patience, this visionary thinking. The versatility and tranquility. So we like that kind of double meaning there. And this was a really well-liked name by many, including students and adults alike. And so we certainly I should probably pause for a second and mention that in this process of all these different committees, it was amazing that independently, every single one of these groups landed on these three main ideas: coyote, sage, and then the third one that you'll see here in just a few moments, which gives me greater confidence that we've come to three names that are truly embraced by our community. So anyways, the Sage Canyon is very, very well liked by many. And of course, once again, we've talked about why the coyotes, and I won't take the time to repeat these things that I already mentioned previously. All right, our third proposed name after those colors is the West Desert Middle School Coyotes. This is another very, very popular name amongst our students and the adults. Why West Desert Middle? Well, the location is self-evident. We are in the West Desert, right? The desert calls to mind as well. We like how it calls to mind endurance, resilience, and a pioneering spirit. Really, when you go beyond the frontier, that's where you're going to, right? And I imagine those that came before us and the maybe angst and anxiety they felt as they moved into this desert region, and yet they moved on with faith and perseverance. And that is not a play on us departing from Frontier Middle School either, this idea that we're going beyond the frontier. We like this, our students love this kind of Wild West theme. As we talked, many of the ideas that we talked about heralded back to this idea of where our roots come from in Eagle Mountain. It certainly evokes a strong, rugged image of exploration and discovery. We think it ties together the strengths of the past with the present. And students loved the desert as an option. That was one of the most popular options that kept coming up over and over. And so as we played with different iterations of desert, it was clear that West Desert was the right version for our groups that looked at this. And of course, we know why the coyotes. So those are our three proposals that we have for you. So what questions do you have for me?
Principal Jolly, I just say
Yeah.
you guys have knocked it out of the park.
Oh,
I
thank
think
you.
that you have done such a great job. Like, I'm so excited.
And the open process. We heard rumors it was going to be Jolly Middle School, but the fact that you...
Jolly Junior High was another one I
Jolly
heard.
Junior
but-
High. The fact that you allowed that to be an open
Yeah.
process, just suspended your own ego there is remarkable.
Yeah.
I feel like you did a great job capturing the essence of Eagle Mountain. I mean, obviously having staff members, parents, kids participate in this. I love the process that you created as far as bringing in students, having a high level of involvement from employees who then, can make a connection and have a lot of buy-in with the process. I also have to say this wasn't specifically mentioned. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but the idea of the Coyote Ridge Mavericks attaches it to Cedar Valley High School with their mascot, so it also feels like there's a level of continuity. Anyways, I'm just completely impressed. Thank you so much. I know that this is a hugely time-consuming process, and just watching social media sometimes, right? Like, I kept thinking, like, they're going to come in with the tumbleweeds. Like, please don't come with Sage Canyon tumbleweeds. So thank you for not coming in with the tumbleweeds. We know
Our
we have a
pleasure.
lot of them. We're fully aware. But this is fantastic. Just like, once again, shout out to you, because having that many committees, I know, was a lot of work on your part and not required, that you could have limited that. So thank you for making sure the community was very excited and very involved in that process. It shows, I think, very, very quickly the kind of principal and administrator that you are, that you seek out and involve and make sure that everyone has a level of connection and input. And it's one of the things that I'm really excited about with working with you. So thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to share one final thing as well. I'm really proud of our students in this process. There were a few options that they were pursuing, and they were so open to feedback from others, and I was amazed at how these 14-year-olds were able to suspend their own opinions, like you talked about, and listen to others and have their ideas and opinions shaped by others. That's something that I sometimes have a hard time to do as an adult, and our kids did it tremendously well. So I want to publicly thank them for that. Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Principal Jolly. We appreciate it. Dr. Farnsworth.
Principal Jolly will invite you back in a couple weeks. So thank you for your work. You received your membership report. It is in your minutes. This pattern continues, so I don't have any updates on that.
I love how you said that. It just continues. Yes, it does.
Patterns continue.
The patterns do continue. Thank you, Superintendent. It is now time for board member and superintendent reports and information items.
Can I just jump in real quick? I think most of you got email about the Leadership Academy, which is September 25th to 27th. It will be held down at Ruby's Inn by Bryce Canyon. Those of you who haven't been down there a lot, I'm just going to encourage you to stop by Red Canyon, which is a state park. There's no crowds there, but that area is beautiful. We have a number of great breakout sessions, one of which we've had legislative auditors visiting us as well as many school boards throughout the state. They feel like they have found some best practices for school boards throughout the state and would like to share them as part of a breakout session. That's the kind of thing we're going to find is just some really good content that will help us be better board members. So I'm excited for that. They have tried to accommodate as many board members as want to go. So I think if we can get our names in the hat now, we can all go if we want to. So put that on your calendar.
Mark, do you know if they're recommending a specific deadline for us to give them the number from our board?
I'm not aware of a particular deadline, but yeah, just
earlier is better.
Yeah, it kind of works out that the early bird gets the worm usually, and then they fill the others in as they can. So.
Okay, thanks.
I just wanted to report on our Employee and Student Success Committee, and those of you that are on the committee can help me fill us in, but we have an employee task force / committee that has been working very diligently on improving best practice and has done some very detailed work, and Vic Larson has been involved with that, as well as Anya Becerra and Belinda Talonia. We just want to express our appreciation for the deep dive you have done into making our school district better serving everyone, both administratively and in our classrooms. And they have pivoted since we are dividing into 3 districts to summarizing their work in a way that will translate easily into the new 3 districts. And I just want to commend them for their work, and it needs to be well documented so that it is preserved, what you have done. So thank you as you continue your efforts to do that. Thank you so much.
I will just add on to that. I think it was no small task to pivot from this is a multi-year rollout plan to how do we synthesize this for each area. And I think my very favorite part, I often say I wish that people could come to our committee meetings and just hear the backstory behind the work and the direction. And so my very favorite part of all of this is building in time for reflection in the process. So we've got a process to go through, things to identify, how we have conversations with our team, but then as the groups are going through that, to then stop back and reflect on that. I think that just aligns so beautifully with the work that is already happening. And I believe this will be a structure, if you will, that everybody can carry, whether they stay in our geographic area or they move to other states. It's just really, really well done. It's just amazing. So thank you so much for all of that. I also want to say, since it's stakeholder report time, which I personally love, it's been very fun to be at the various SCC meetings as principals are presenting those stakeholder reports, going over their data points. I think it was when did we do the Pioneer Derby thing? Was that a year ago? Okay, so 2 years ago, June, there was a very intentional effort on how we're looking at data, what are we chasing, and it has been, from my perspective, just being able to observe individual leadership teams, how they have set these really fabulous goals and how they've chased it, and now it's the report of, look what we've done. Just really some beautiful celebrations among our schools, and not all of us, but sometimes I am extra appreciative of the way it is structured. And so just shout out to our shout out to our principals. Julie and I have a thing, I care about colors. Just for being able to create documents that whether you are closely involved in the schools or you were just picking it up for the first time, that you can understand where they are, where their growth is, and the direction they're going. So I know those take a significant amount of effort. So thank you to all the teams that put those together.
We have a lot of athletes that are preparing for state tournaments and state meets this week, and I just wanted to wish the athletes that will be participating in those state meets in wrestling, swimming, and basketball good luck with their tournaments and their meets.
Some legislation was passed this last week that would affect our associations and their ability to enter into collective bargaining. We sent a letter out to all of our employees. I just want to publicly thank the board for the relationship that we have with our associations, that we are able to communicate, that we will continue to work with them in good faith as we have in the past. I met with all 3 of the association representatives on Thursday and just confirmed with them our desire to continue to work with them and to do all that we can to protect and provide the benefits, salary, compensation that they deserve. They are what make our district run, and we are grateful for them. I just wanted to publicly express appreciation for the board, for the support of those groups and working with them, and our commitment as a staff and a Board of Education to continue that relationship regardless of the changes in the legislation. We have a great relationship, and I expect that relationship to continue. So thank you.
Okay, we have need of a closed session. So I'll entertain a motion for us to move into closed session, and then we will need to do a roll call for that.
I move that we move into closed session, and this is Board Member Wilson, aye.
Board Member Lincoln, aye.
Board Member Clement, aye.
Board Member Bateman, aye.
Do we need a second on that? I guess I'll second it. Board Member King, aye.
Board Member Peterson, aye.
Board Member Beeson, aye.
Okay, so we are adjourned to closed session. Thank you.